I think a sound that I cannot do without is, I'd actually reframe that.
Thank you so much for clicking on my YouTube interview with the cast and the director of Sound of Metal. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love it if you would, and turn on notifications. I didn't realize you had to do that, but turn on your notifications. I'm trying to put content up weekly, so I would appreciate it. In the meantime, this is one of the best things I've seen in a while. I really was moved by this film. Darius Marder, the director, dedicated it to his grandmother who lost her hearing later in life. We talked about that. Co-star Paul Raci, who has a very deep personal tie to this subject matter. Both of his parents were deaf, could not have been nicer and more open with his personal story. And of course, Olivia Cooke, the always fabulous Olivia Cooke, and Riz Ahmed, who I just think is outstanding in this movie. I hope you enjoy. Well, Riz, my name is Tara, T-A-R-A. I remember that somehow a little bit from growing up. You obviously know a lot more words than that. With everything that you do after doing this film, do you hear sound differently now?
I think I'm just a lot more aware of the breadth of ways in which we can communicate. I think often in the hearing community, we get stuck on thinking that our way is the only way, our experience is the only experience. And I think having spent some time within the deaf community, being lucky enough to be accepted and guided by mentors and teachers within that community, particularly Jeremy Stone, my sign instructor, I think I'm just a lot more aware of how we aren't the default. And I think that's something that's, really reflected in the way that we're releasing the film and the way that it's meeting the world. It's captioned, for everyone. Everyone is going to go and see the same movie. And actually, at some moments in the movie, when characters are signing, that's the only thing that we don't subtitle. So in a way, it allows the hearing audience to kind of be put in the position that often deaf audiences are placed in when they go to see a movie. So I guess I'm a lot more aware of how what we think of as like normal is just one way of being and listening and communicating.
What did Jeremy think of the film when he saw it for the first time? He had to have been emotional.
I think he really is proud of the journey that we went on together. A lot of Jeremy is in the film. Jeremy's surname is Stone, so I renamed Ruben Stone for that reason. We really went on that quite an intimate journey together over 7 months. Teaching someone how to speak, how to communicate is something that a parent does to a child, and he was kind of my parent within the deaf community. And I remember when I first started communicating through American Sign Language, I'd find myself getting a lot more emotional than I would normally if I just spoken the words. And what he explained to me is, when you stop hiding behind words, you have to really embody what you're saying. Right. And that's when things can feel a lot more connected and a lot more emotional. So it was a very much an enriching experience for me. And I hope Jeremy's proud of what we've made.
Some of the stuff with Joe, with Paul's character about stillness. I mean, gosh, and here we are all in moments of kind of forced stillness. Did this help you? You're always on the go. You're always going a mile a minute. Before the pandemic, after having done this film, did you get better at dealing with moments of stillness and learning how to appreciate them?
I think so. Yeah, I think it forced me to, a movie like this or any kind of movie, you go on a journey similar to what the character goes on. And hopefully, a big part of why I do this is so that the character can teach you something about yourself. That you can bring some of yourself to the character and the character teaches you something. And I think something that Ruben taught me was, you are more than what you do. You aren't who you think you are. And I guess, I won't go into too much detail in terms of the lessons that Ruben learns, because I'd love audiences to have their own take on that. But he definitely taught me something. And I hope that audiences also walk away with a similar lesson, at the end of the movie.
There are so many. It made me appreciate sound. So before, I know they just wrapped me, what is a sound you can't do without?
I think a sound that I cannot do without is, I'd actually reframe that and say that having met so many people within the deaf community who do live without sound, who do live without hearing and live such full and rich lives, um, I think that we can do without sound. And I think people who are lucky enough to have sound in their lives should appreciate that, make the most of it. But I think what we really look for in sound is connection. And I think it's connection that I can't do without. And connecting to the deaf community was a real privilege for me. And I hope to maintain that connection in some way.
Well, I won't give anything away, but the ending of it kind of encapsulates all of that just perfectly. And I can't thank you enough. It is so good, Riz. I hope to do the next one in person. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Tara. Take care.
I loved this movie, and I'm sure you have been hearing that all day long. Your character, I just want to quickly start with the look, because you bleached some eyebrows. That alone changes the look of things. But how much say did you have in Lou's look?
Oh, I think all the say, really. I think towards the end, Darius, the director, really wanted a different look to Lou when we see her again in Paris. But I just wanted something that looked quite like a little bit feral and a little bit alien. And so bleaching the eyebrows and having it just be eyes, it kind of does that for it. And my hair was already overly bleached, and so we left that. And yeah, I think that's what helped the look, and everything was quite androgynous and baggy, and until she's on stage, and that kind of helped me get into character.
Yeah, those scenes when you perform, I have to be honest, I've never been a huge fan of the loud punk music, but just watching you and the way you develop the character, I almost wanted a prequel. I almost wanted to see how she ended up where she ended up. I find that's kind of rare. When you do a character, is it rare when you like them so much that you almost wish there was a backstory?
Yeah, luckily Darius gave me a very lengthy backstory that I've got buried in my email about her relationship with her father and her mother, and how her and Ruben came to meet. And I kind of love that when you're just introduced to a character as is, and there's no meaty backstory or getting to know that person. You're just meeting this person as they are in this time, and you let the audience fill in the gaps.
And it's nice that you do get a little bit of one in this film. I will let viewers know that. Watching it, obviously, first of all, I think it's the best stuff Riz has ever done. He's just phenomenal in this movie. But you do come away from it not only hearing things and noticing sounds you didn't quite notice before, and appreciating sounds that you maybe didn't appreciate before. So let me start with that. What's a sound that maybe after doing this film you have come to appreciate more?
Oh God, I think maybe a baby's giggle.
But not a baby's cry.
Not a baby's cry, because that's excruciating, but like a baby's giggle. I think I was on the plane back from Antwerp where we filmed the end of the film, and there was a baby just giggling on the flight home, which is rare. And it was just gorgeous, like the most beautiful sound in the world. And I think, yeah, something like that, I think I would, obviously really miss.
And how about a sound that you can't live without?
I can't live without.
Probably music, right?
Music, yeah. When you've got a song and there's a string quartet just shoved in there, that's quite beautiful.
Hey, Paul, it's Tara Hitchcock from Arizona. 4 minutes is not enough time to talk about this film. You are outstanding in it.
Oh, thank you, Tara. I appreciate
it's so fascinating to hear about your background with this whole subject of not being able to hear. And I would imagine you've been through a time without any interpreters and all the technology that exists today. But now we exist in a time where everybody's holding up a phone and looking down. And your character makes it clear you need to be able to see, when reading lips. What has been the biggest change in this world, in your opinion? You've lived through it.
Well, I'm not deaf. I can hear.
No, I know. Your parents, though.
My mother was a lip reader. My father was not. My father was totally deaf from about 9 months old. But my mother lost her hearing at the age of 5 years old. So my dad was a very happy, serene kind of a guy. My mother was pretty bitter about it. to the very end, because she still remembered hearing. She still remembered music. And my mother influenced my acting in this role so much, because one of the lines I ad lib in the movie is, I still remember the last song that happened before that bomb. And Darius let me do that. I even said the name of the song. We had to cut it out because we couldn't get the rights to it. It was a very small budget. But that kind of thing. My mother would always be like, I don't like people with mustaches that can't see their lips. I still remember I'll Get By, stuff from the 40s, you know. And she even tried to sing me a song one time that she remembered. And as a little boy, I looked up at her. I was in a rocking chair. I said, Mom, that's not how the song goes. It broke her heart, because she realized that she wasn't singing it in the right key. So that was a moment that I'll never forget. But my mother had a lot to do with the way Joe behaves and how he remembered what music he was listening to, and the whole thing. Yeah.
Gosh, I can't even imagine what they think or would have thought of this film. And yes, I'm glad I want to make it clear, I knew you were not deaf, but it was definitely your parents, because to be honest, I'll bet some people will think that maybe this does stem from your experience. You're that good in this part, and the lessons your character, obviously inspired by your mom, pass on to Riz's character, are lessons we could all use. And especially about stillness. I want to ask you, during this time where we've all been forced to take a pause and try to be still if we can, have you always been good at appreciating moments of stillness?
No, please. No, I had to learn. When I got in touch with my own spirituality and meditation, and being able to pray, if you will, to whatever, you know, whatever's within you, or outside, however you pray. It took me years because I have had addiction problems. That stems from a lot of my uncomfortableness with who I was. I didn't know if I was, you know, growing up with deaf parents was very discombobulating. When I learned sign language first and then English second, I watched how hearing people treated my parents. I went through the humiliation of being made fun of because my parents sounded different. So all of that led to me going to Vietnam, and then getting addicted to all kinds of things, then coming back and having to fight through that. So that stillness that Joe accomplishes is the same kind of journey that I had to go through in my life to accomplish understanding what stillness really means.
Well, I hope this movie helped you. It's definitely going to help a lot of people. I can't thank you enough. I wish we had more time. And just so that you know, Tara is my name. So
beautiful. I love you.
Nice meeting you, Paul.
Nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh, congratulations on this. I know you dedicated this to your grandmother. What did your family think when they first saw this movie?
You know, it was a really powerful experience for my family. And it's interesting in retrospect, because the three kids of my grandmother, Dorothy Martyr, my father and his two sisters, my two aunts, they all came, and all of my family came to Toronto to that premiere. Little did we know that we wouldn't have necessarily another chance to gather like that and watch this film. Isn't that amazing? And, really, you know, so that's another aspect of it. But I think that for this film to be dedicated to her, you know, she was really extraordinary, and she went deaf, and she fought for her whole life to have movies subtitled. She was a cinephile, and she was, I mean, so it was profound for them.
Yeah. Gosh, she'd be so proud. I mean, I feel, you know, I knew that story going in, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just crazy. And what's interesting, you just mentioned the timing of this, where we can't really gather. Now we're all forced in a way to deal with stillness, not literally necessarily with the hearing, but are you better at dealing with moments of stillness after this film, or has this pandemic helped you deal with moments of stillness?
I think I've been challenged, as we all have. And I think that, you know, it's fascinating the way that this pandemic has challenged all of us, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I have thought a lot about that comparison with this movie. And I sometimes laugh because I find myself doing push-ups on my kitchen floor, just like Ruben, and, you know, trying to just deal with myself and really recognize how much of me is in this movie. And as much as I thought I was dealing, then I was challenged in a new way, as we all are right now, right? And it's really been a very meta experience, especially because I was putting a movie into the world where normally I'd be flying all over and blah, blah, blah. It's just, you know, we're being checked.
Well, I hope you have more space in your kitchen than Ruben does in his Airstream to do those push-ups.
I ensured that I did.
Yeah, okay, good. To me, this is the best stuff Riz has ever done. He's always good in anything. He's just outstanding in this. Was there anything that surprised you? Because we all know that he learned how to play the drums and he learned the American Sign Language and how to do it pretty well. What amazed you the most or impressed you the most about everything he did?
I think he's so talented, but what I challenged Riz to do in this is something he hadn't really done yet, which was to make a process entirely not frontal lobe and all visceral and all about impulse and physical. And what really amazed me about Riz, and what I think you see on the screen, is this is a man being extremely vulnerable. And that was something that was very important to me. Is a man showing, you being a part of those experiences when she leaves and he breaks down, and it's something so incredibly legit in what he accessed in these moments. And for me, that was very important to me to see. I think so often in movies we show male emotion in a very specific way, or we don't show it, or we reserve it for just anger or violence or whatever it is. And I was just so proud to see a fellow man being willing to lay it bare. And that's what he was.
You might make me cry just thinking about several scenes in this movie. I know they're about to wrap me. This forces you to hear sounds differently. You did such an amazing job giving us the levels of loss. When he first loses it, then he's in the office of the doctor, and then he, maybe he'll get it back, maybe not, like all these levels. What is the sound that you started to appreciate more after having done this? And then what is the sound that you just can't live without?
Oh, what a great question. Well, what the film asks us to do is to start appreciating sound more, because we lose it and then we get it, we hear it again. So we're always going, oh, right, that's the way birds sound, or, oh, right, that's so, wow. And so it's asking us to do that. And I do find myself having that experience all the time, having made this, which is like, while we were doing the sound, it was like a 23-week mix. I mean, it was massive. And we did it in the hills of Mexico. And so at night I would go to bed and listen to the dogs barking in the hills of Mexico. And I would just think about the fact that I could experience that. And whereas another time I might've just been like, those dogs better shush. But and I think that, that kind of experience right now, I'm in the country, and that really, to wake up and be able to walk out and listen, having made this movie, you really do start to think about it in your life. It's amazing.
Well, I am grateful that you made this film. It is just outstanding. I hope to meet in person one day and do this next time in person. And thank you for your time.
Me too. Thank you so much for your kind words.